white background is text, Dil Vil Pyaar Vyaar, Nidhi Goyal in conversation with Tony Kurian on romance, relationships and disability. Access India Convention, Purple Fest 2023. On the top left corner is the Rising Flame logo, and on the bottom right corner is an illustration of a short-haired person using a wheelchair while holding hands with a longer-haired person in a skirt. There are small pink hearts near the text.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session, Dil Vil Pyaar Vyaar, Negotiating Relationships and Consent. We're at the Access India Convention of the Purple Fest, Goa 2023, and so excited to be connecting with all of you on this panel and discussing some very interesting, or having some very interesting conversation with a very close friend and a colleague. Here, let me introduce myself first. I am Nidhi Goyal. I'm the founder and executive director of Rising Flame. And from the team, hello to all of you. And we are bringing here this panel, and our guest, again, my fellow speaker for the panel is Tony Kurian, who is a disability rights activist, a feminist at heart, as well as pursuing his PhD from IIT Mumbai. Hi, Tony. Welcome to the panel.
Hello, Nidhi. Thank you.
Tony, I'm just going to give a quick image description of myself for all our blind and low vision friends here. I am a woman in my mid-30s, sitting here on a chair with my hair open, wearing a pinkish peach sweater with a pinkish peach beaded necklace, and I'll stop my description there. I'm wearing earphones in order to facilitate this recording, and my pronouns are she and her. Tony?
Hi, thank you, Nidhi. And let me start with an apology that I could not be at the Access India Convention. I could not make it. Apologies for that. I would have loved to be there, but I could not. And thank you for having me here, Rising Flame and the Access India team. Let me also give the image description for our friends. I am wearing a blue kurta and sitting in a red painted room, red background. And I have a headphones on me for the recording. So yeah, that's it.
And your pronouns, Tony?
Oh yeah, my pronouns are he and him. That's what I use. Yeah.
Great. So friends, what are we doing here today at the Access India Convention? Having all of you here, we basically thought it was an opportunity to discuss something that we have been talking for a while. We've discussed this before, but the questions never stop, right? The anxieties, the concerns around relationships, around sexuality, around desire, around gender, around consent. These are really confusing terrains for all people. And believe me, when I say all people, it's not all people with disabilities. It's just confusing and anxiety-inducing, or for everyone. And when it comes to people who are blind, like us, or who live with low vision or have any other disabilities, it just gets very compounded. So what we're going to do today is have a conversation between Tony and I to make it, weave through some of our thoughts, some of our experiences, and take this ahead as a conversation, and then leave room or time for Q&A at the end. So Tony, are you ready for my questions? Can we begin?
Oh yes, sure, for sure. Yeah, and just to reiterate what Nidhi just said, that we are going to have a conversation that involves a lot of personal stories, but what we are trying to do is also to bring in a lot of our thoughts, which we hope we can all think together. So our stories are just the kind of just stories out there, but what we are also trying to do is to put in a lot of our thoughts so that we can all think together about these issues that keep bugging us, whether you are single, in a relationship, or married, or divorced, or whatever stage in your life you are. I'm sure these thoughts keeps coming to all of us, and that's what we are trying to do. Yes, Nidhi, we can start.
So we'll take you through thinking about finding a partner. Where do you go? What do you do? How do you hit on someone? And Tony, these are some of the questions that will come to you. What are the anxieties? What are these boundaries? What do you mean by consent when we're talking about even expressing our desires, right? What it means to choose a partner, what it means to have a choice, what it means to be in a relationship. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask my first question to Tony, which is around finding a partner, right? When did you start thinking of dating? Tony? I think dating has become such a buzzword, no? That everyone's like, hey, oh, you're young, you need to date. And it has different words in different languages, it has different meanings. But this whole idea about when did you start thinking about dating and what were your initial concerns?
So I should say that there were two phases I had, and the first phase was when you were in college, and everyone was dating, and I was like, "What's happening around me?" And then I thought I also should date. And the initial concern was that will I find anyone? Will anyone find me worthy enough to date? Because I went to a mainstream college, mainstream university, where I think we were like two blind or low vision folks. So I was like, why should someone find me interesting? There are eligible, able-bodied individuals all around, a lot of men. So why should any woman find me interesting? That was the initial concern. That was genuinely the initial concern. And I was, 19, 20 back then. And the second phase of dating is when, I was in my PhD and I was thinking, one should do something about life, about relationships. And, so that was when, it was slightly more thought about and organized and kind of with a plan sort of thing. And then the concern was more about how can I be a good partner to someone, what does it mean to be a good that sort of a thought. The idea that no one would find me interesting had faded by then, and rather in political ways. But it was more about how can I be a good partner, sort of thinking. Yeah, yes, maybe that was.
I think it's very interesting that you bring this up, Tony. I think a lot of this, and I don't know where in your case it came from, but for a lot of us in the community, right? It comes from cinema. It comes from who is found attractive, right? What is this woman who would be attractive? Who's this man, and what makes him a man and what makes him an attractive man, right? Or a desirable man. And, adding to that, the whole idea of disability, of how disability leaves you incomplete, right? And I think that's a bigger, I always call it noise around you that shapes our thoughts, that shapes what we believe about us. And I think self-doubt is not something that any of us have not had. Let me drop the double, triple negative, but I think self-doubt is something that all of us have had, right? And many of the folks think, saying, I am someone who comes from working within this space, working at the intersection of disability and gender for many years, also sexuality, relationships, etc. And the idea is that confident people will not have self-doubt about themselves when it comes to relationships. And I think that's absolutely not true. I was trying to say something else, but
yeah, Nidhi, there might so of course, like for me also, the problem of self-doubt was primarily because I could not find any identifiable role model, if one can say, in movies or any fiction I read, and that kind of created the self. What I want to ask you, Nidhi, is also that as a man, yes, there is a stereotypical attractive man, but there is all the more a stereotypical attractive woman. The movies portray the dolled up, very physically attractive, and that premium. There is a premium on women.
Yes.
That's it. So how did you, as a woman with disability, cope with that pressure? Because it would have been all the more for you, right? I mean, if I'm assuming right.
Yeah. So I think, Tony, for me, it was multiple things, right? People also like women who are a little quieter, who feel a little shy. I was none of those. So I was already battling with not being the woman, right? Not being a disabled woman was another added layer. But like I've always been loud. I've always laughed, out loud with my heart open, and I would sit the way it was comfortable for me. I used to not go to the parlor, right, till I was 19 or something. So I hadn't threaded my eyebrows till I was 19. Oh. And people are like, oh, that's not attractive. You don't look like a girl. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, But I think it's a whole ideal of beauty. The way that a woman should show up in a relationship, some of this around how. And people say, oh, we'll move forward. But I think if you do a survey of men, many men would still tell you it's a turn off if a woman approaches me. I would like to be the man, right? So I think some of this was already playing against me. And plus I was unsure. I was also losing sight, Tony. I have an acquired disability and I was losing sight.
Right.
And I was very, very clear about who I was attracted to, right? I had my type by then. So I was a very deep voice, has to be deep voice. You know, if he has one of the Shah Rukh Khan names, even better. And I really felt for one of my early crushes was a guy who had one of Shah Rukh Khan's famous character names. But anyway, that aside, but I think it was always this double thing for me. And the disability, the problem is, Tony, that the minute you're taking help as a woman, right? You're supposed to be all giving. The minute you're taking help, you just become imperfect. But also the minute you have a cane in your hand, you're this loving best friend. You'll be the best friend of everybody, right? I'm sure you also experienced this.
Yeah.
Where women felt absolutely safe being with you, but not with any other man. That's a very simple way of saying you guys don't have a gender. You guys don't have a sexuality, right? We make it complicated by using these words, but that's the behavior all of us are going through. But you know, I think Tony, you lost many years there. You're saying directly in PhD, you started thinking about dating. But did you by then know, and what did you think about being this good partner? And did you know what kind of relationship or partner did you want? Or were you looking for?
So Nidhi, thank you for that. You know, a lot of transformation happened within me by then. From 1920, 21 to 27, 28. I had worked in between and all that. But emotionally, I had come to terms with my disability much more. Because I had realized that the problem is not with me and my disability. The problem is with the world that gives premium to able-bodied individuals, and I had to challenge it rather politically. So that was one big part, and the other part was I also moved away from what an ideal partner is. So I also had my type, and I say my type, I also had my voice type. I was like, I need a kind of dulcet voice, whatever. And I for some reason I thought I should have a girlfriend with long hair and all that thing. I don't know where I got these imageries from. But by 27, 28, I had slowly moved away from all this, and I realized that what I need is someone who treats me as an equal partner, who doesn't infantilize me, who doesn't see me as a caretaker, and who just respects me for whom I am, but also demands equality. And that became very important for me, that who doesn't let me to tread a patriarchal sort of a male dominant character. So a lot of these changes within me, happen, and both the way I saw myself, but also the way in which I saw what a potential partner should be. And that also meant that the kind of relationship I was seeking for also changed. And not because I'm recording this with you, a lot of this also happened through reading a lot of feminist literature, including some of the pieces written by you. That's because it helped me to realize that a lot of the issues around disability and relationship, or disability and sexuality, is also connected to the way connected to the way we have designed the world in a patriarchal way. And I realized that if I decide to drop that, and if I'm on this side of the fence, where I think that what matter is not the things, that the premium on able-bodiedness and stuff like that, I am in a better place emotionally, but the probability of me finding a partner also increases, because what you're looking for is a whole lot of different things. So I think that transformation happened, and it took some time for the transformation to come. And that's why I had a long break, between this 2019, 20 and 27, 28, because I realized that without figuring out who I am and what I want, it's kind of pointless. So that's how that long break sort of happened. Yeah, Nidhi.
So who I am and what I wanted are the two crux, is the crux of what you're saying, right? That
exactly.
First worked on removing this negative image or self-doubt about yourself,
right.
about who you were. Yeah. And the second thing is, what did you want, right? And very often, and I think it's very, very important for all of us to note, we are continuously for others, when we say, what kind of partner do you like or want, we have a list, people have a list, right? Or they have some preference. For disabled folks, very often, even within the community or outside, when you're asking this question, it is about, Acha, you want a non-disabled partner, same disability partner, or other disability partner? I'm like, what is this? Who do you want? How does the disability become a part of like desire, like, or wish or want or partner? You want a certain partner and then you see if they're disabled or not, right? I think that is what that's what's important, that we're not unpacking what kind of a person do. And I think it's also coming, Tony, many of our friends who are not able to do this are also coming from multiple places of not just anxiety, but pressures, right? Pressure of not being single, pressure that everybody is in a relationship, anxiety of, oh my God, I'm disabled, whether I'll find someone or not. So can I just make it really basic about who should be my partner? And we'll come to that. But I really want to ask you a personal question, Tony. Did you then end up dating someone with a long hair or not in the past?
Oh, yeah, I mean, instantly.
Sorry.
No, instantly the person who, I ended up dating had long hair. That was coincidental. I did not pursue it, so.
Okay. And
Yeah.
on that note, how did you express, like, how do you negotiate this, right? I think there's a lot of confusion around how do you approach a person? How do you express your,
yeah, so I think at different point of time. So when you meet someone offline, it has been very tough for me. And I do want to ask you that question in a moment, but it has been very tough, right? But, I tried to tell my mind, that's all I could do, because I was like, how do I do this? It's difficult. But as time progressed and, when I reached my second phase, I realized that, I can express interest in multiple ways. For example, I can, ask them that, could we meet, and then see, how they respond to that, through texting, through calling, and so on and so forth. But I should say it was still a difficult terrain to navigate. It was extremely difficult terrain to navigate. And I think, and I understand a lot of our friends in the community do share this thing with me and Nidhi, and that's what I want to ask you, that, as blind people, we lack the ability to access the visual communication. So we can't do the, aanko mein aank, ishara thing, what people do. I'm told that sighted people have a lot of, tilting the head and, winking the eyes and all that things. How do you then, as a woman, how do you think that, so a lot of issues in the, we experience has to do with this expressing interest. So, because we don't know how to express the interest, we venture into territories that are that can be termed as non-consensual. So two things: how did you express interest? The same question that you asked me, but also, how do you think that people should express interest? Because especially because we don't have the access to visual communication. That is how 99% of romantic interest or sexual interest are communicated, and it's a very brutal thing to think about. So yeah, your thought.
Right. No, I think Tony, okay, let's be very clear that dating, relationships, life, everything with a disability is a little more challenging, right? And I do want to acknowledge that. Before I start sharing some of the solutions or showing the other side of the coin, I think it is hard, yes. Like we've accepted life, like we've accepted work, like we've accepted or are finding our solutions in education, etc. I think relationships is also about finding those solutions or dating or flirting. I mean, I've had range of things, like I've spoken out or, things around wearing the person's favorite perfume, buying them a gift. In college, it was really tough to buy roses. I bought roses and gave on Rose Day. I mean, if this is not enough hint, I don't know what is, right? I don't think I need to do aankho mein aankho ka ishara when I have a rose in my hand and I'm giving it to you. I think it's also, in everywhere around us, we see, like how we say cinema is an experience. It's not only visual, right? Life is an experience. Flirting is an experience. Dating is an experience. It has visual elements. But we can definitely, like you said, a text, Tony, what is stopping us from texting, flirting on text, if you have a good way with words? If you don't have a good way with words, YouTube has songs, guys, like just dedicate songs. And it's not, but what's not okay is to, suddenly go hold hands and they're assisting you and you start creeping them out by like checking out their bangles because they did a handshake. It's not okay to, even for women, right? Because we are blind, we may want that input, but it's not okay to start. Now, Tony said he's wearing a kurta. Kurta, right, Tony?
Yeah, kurta.
If you and I were sitting next to each other, it's not cool for me to just start checking out your kurta without asking you.
Yeah.
Or you to start
I would
checking
be
out
creeped
my
out.
then, or you to just be like, hey, you give me a hug, and then because you have a fetish for long hair, you're like, Arey, Nidhi ke baal kitne lambe. It's not cool to do that, right? I think those are the things that we need to negotiate more, and then finally it is confusing too. I remember I was, after one of my performances, I was at this and the Godrej Culture Lab, actually, to be very precise. And
Oh yeah,
I was with, you were there, one of my friends / colleague was there, and there was this guy who came and started talking to me, right? And I thought he was just being nice. My colleague later came and said, oh my God, what did you do? She was falling all over you. And I was like, what do you say? What do you say? I don't think so. She's like, of course, Nidhi. I said, I don't think so. He was being nice, but also because we're so used to, Tony, somebody coming and randomly like starting to praise us because we can breathe and we can stand and we can sit, that when someone's like trying to, be complimentary and hitting, I have not been able to pick up those cues. So even if they're verbal, so I just want to say that dating is confusing. We have to find our own ways, and it's not like this mantra is going to work with each person. But I think solely saying that because we won't be able to visually connect, we won't be able to connect is not cool, right? I think gaming is a great way to connect.
Right.
And I don't know if I've said this before, I think I wrote it in an article. My husband now, who was my friend before, partner, like we were in a relationship in between, we basically spend a lot of time with online gaming, right? I think it's just, how you find ways to spend time, what really excites the two of you, I fell for him because he saved me from a dog on the street.
Oh,
so you don't know if you're hitting on the person or you're giving some signals.
So you owe your dating life to a dog?
Not really. Many other things, but sure.
For sure.
I owe my dating life to multiple dogs on the street and otherwise. So.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Okay. Should we just, I do want to say, this is about expressing your interest, but what was your anxiety, Tony, in between in the 6-7 years? And also when you were connecting, I believe you were using dating apps, right?
Right.
But if you're trying to connect to someone in a party or online, in a college situation or online, what was I don't know, what were the decisions that you had to make? What did you have to think before? What were your concerns then? What were some experiences there? And what were your styles of expressing, coping, communicating? So I think many questions packed in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to respond in whatever way. So the first thing is about what was the anxiety? There was one primary anxiety that was that will I be single? Will I be emotionally single? And will I have to cope with this loneliness throughout my life? And that was the biggest anxiety I had. And I really thought, I remember, many days I had to, sit with this idea that I'm going to be single. And initially it was a question, will I be single? And then it transformed itself to an answer that I will be single, right? So from will I to I will was a gradual and brutal kind of transformation. And I could do nothing about it because like we said before, all the ideal partners we saw were able-bodied and driving cars and dancing around gardens and all that things I could not do. So that was the biggest emotional thing. And then there was a lot of pressure from the family to settle for anyone, and I think that's one conversation we should have in the community openly, because our families also go through anxiety because they also want to see us settling with someone. And for them,
Sorry.
for them, it's like, why don't you settle with anyone, sort of thing. It is out loud. So they are like, let's settle with someone who doesn't have economically, who is not settled. So you are doing your PhD, whatever, you will have a good job. So this will be fine for you, or they will be like, why don't you find someone from cross disability or some other kind of disability, and all that and all that. These things are communicated in subtle ways. These are not told upfront.
You're lucky they're not told upfront.
Yeah, I mean,
they're told upfront, Tony.
Oh no, for me it was not told upfront. It was communicated subtly, and for me, I thought I will fall for it, but thankfully before that I realized I decided two things. One is that I'm not going to be in a relationship or marry someone because I want to just do it. It has to be with someone whom I really find interesting, with someone fine, because like single life is one kind of thing, but bad married life is another kind of pain. So I thought, that's what I was told. So I thought, let me not enter that just because I want to get married. Let me not accept anyone and everyone who come my way, kind of. Right. And the second thing was I also became disability agnostic, in the sense that while I would not marry anyone for disability or because they are disabled, I also would not reject anyone because they are disabled. I was agnostic about it. I was like, whatever it is, if the person is fun and interesting, and if I think there's great compatibility, I'm going to be with this person, whether that person is a person with disability or not. And for that, I also had to ensure that as a person, individually, I'm independent with things in daily life, everyday needs and stuff like that. Because also because I didn't want to be the care receiver, in the relationship, right? Whether it be with a sighted person or a non-sighted person, you don't want to be this person who always asks for care, right? You want to be an equal contributor. One started learning cooking, mobility, all sort of things, right? And it's not like I can say that one can do everything as efficient and as smoothly as a sighted person does, but one can get by. One can figure out, So that sort of independence also gave me the confidence to filter out the partners I want to be with, right? Because I didn't want to settle with someone because this person can cook, or because this person can make the bed, or whatever,
This is so cool.
Yeah, and I think that was very important for me in becoming a confident person. Of course, in professional space, but also in areas of relationship. That idea that I'm independent, right? That helped me. That gave me the strength to say that, wait, I'm going to have my say when it comes to
fantastic,
right? And Nidhi, I have a kind of a related question.
Can I summarize a little bit what you're saying, Tony?
Oh, sure, for sure.
Yeah. So I think the two very important, again, things that you mentioned is the pressure, right? The pressures that come on you. And sometimes you inflict it on yourself as well because of listening to everything around you, right? And settle for something and settle, right? What is this word called settle? I really, it's very misleading. Everyone says, oh, get married, settle in life. But, I'm already settled. So I think this word settle is very misleading, saying, ab settle hona hai. Kya, kahan settle hona hai? Matlab, jagah settle honi ka, life mein settled feel ho raha hai. Kisne bola shaadi ke baad settled feel hota hai? I think we're two married people, we can tell you, it's not like,
it's not,
shaadi ho gayi, settle ho gayi.
You don't get settled overnight.
No, and so I think this anxiety, and you'd rather have this one than have no one, right? And who's asking you to make these choices? And bad relationships, right? Relationships that are not working out for you, and relationships may not work out for you even if the person's good. It doesn't. When we say bad relationships are not relationships with bad people, like we're not putting moral terminology to people. We are saying just abusive relationships that are not working out, that are bad, that are not healthy for you. All of this gets, and becomes even more, the likelihood is more that you would stick around in such a relationship is more if you are like subscribing to the sort of, hey, let's just settle with whatever, right? Or whoever. And then we'll just figure out. And I think half of the, not just dating and relationships, but marriage issues come up from here, where we've not explored compatibility. where we've not explored anything else. And the second very important point that Tony said, which I want to reiterate, is what are we finding in a relationship? Are we finding replacement for our parents? Because parents are finding replacements for themselves, right? They are saying, "Arey, hum abhi hain, baad mein kaun hoga? Koi tumhara dhyan rakh le," right? So to say in English again that we're now here with you, who's going to take care of you? So we'd rather find a partner. So they are looking for replacements for themselves. Are you also doing that? Are you looking for a replacement for a caregiver, or have you really, really worked towards independent living? And independent living is as independently as your capacity and potential allows, right? So if someone has multiple disabilities, I'm not saying, I'm not saying, hey, independent living means now you can start reading handwritten stuff. That's not independent living. But I'm saying that refusing to do what you can do or what you can, like, Tony gave examples of making the bed, a very simple thing, right? Cooking, can you feed yourself? Can you get your own water? Can you wash your own utensils? I think, we undersell a lot of people who have cushions, strong families, or just want to go to a caregiver, a caretaken life where somebody's. I was at this event where I was trying to explain to people that don't center disability in choice, center choice in choice, right?
Yeah.
Like, who do you like? Who do you want? And the responses I got is that I want someone like this because they can drive me around. And I'm like, just hire a driver, earn that much that you can have a car and a driver, right?
Yeah.
Or a chauffeur-driven car, to be precise. So I think this expectation, and then that leads to problems because you're expecting that your partner will become your chauffeur and not your partner. I think the lines blur. It's not like your partner will never drive you around, but if your expectation is that they always drive you around, the issues will start coming.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I wanted to summarize and underscore as well. Sorry, Tony. Now we'll come to your question that you want to ask.
Oh, yeah.
We just have the next few minutes, so we'll.
Yeah, sure. So another source of pressure, Nidhi, which I experienced, you also have experienced this, is everyone around you getting married. Sab log ka shadi ho rahe, not just for around you, but you see this on social media and all that. And how did that impact you, and how did you, kind of navigate that thing? I mean, did you feel this pressure, or what was it like?
So one thing is that I was a person who liked celebrations, right? So from Bollywood, I always wanted like a Yash Chopra type of wedding.
Yeah.
So that was me. ठीक है कि मैं शादी करूंगी तो ऐसा मस्त like everything.
ज़्यादा Bollywood देख रहे हैं आप, हाँ.
हाँ. So part of life too. It's a cult that we all grew up with in India. No. But the point was that the pressure wasn't there on me. So first of all, I've been very, very fortunate, Tony. In that sense that from my family, there was never a pressure that you need to get married. Or you need to find whoever, right? They were also very clear, knowing me and my personality. They were like, you please find a guy who can like stand in front of you, who can tolerate you and you can tolerate him. So it was kind of very clear, right? For my family from the beginning. And I've been very, very fortunate to have, and here, I'm speaking also to the parents, right? To have parents who said that marriage is not going to be your end goal. Your goal is going to be finding your own way, right? Like finding your choice, finding your voice, finding what you want to do and being responsible enough to live through it, right? I think that's what they work towards. And they said all of this will then be useful in you finding a partner or us suggesting a partnership.
Right.
So I think this is very important for parents to remember. But the second thing is, it's not like I'm some unemotional human being who didn't ever got impacted by anyone's weddings, etc. Right? I made a motto that I enjoyed everyone's wedding, because that was also a chance for me to get dressed and dance, and meet people and all of that. Right? I think we're not looking at it right. I think. But the second thing, what really hurt was in many circles. The conversation would go like, if we were 5 of us women sitting, and if 3 have got married and 2 of us haven't got married, they'd be like, ab to sirf iski shaadi baki hai. They'd point to another friend and be like,
right.
Only she's like, we're now waiting for your wedding. And I would wonder in my head, saying, meri shaadi ka kya ho gaya? Matlab, why are you not waiting for my wedding, right? Sometimes I also made people uncomfortable saying, hey, we're 2 of us here. And then there'd be like uncomfortable giggles saying, of course, tujhe to koi bahut acha milega, right? Because our partners are already made into divine beings before we've ever found them,
Right. Totally.
So just by the thought of it, and it's very cool, right? So you don't have to introduce your partner to anyone. Just say, "Oh, I'm married now. I have a husband. Oh, he's such a wonderful soul." I'm like, that he is, but like, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
So I think what hurt me a lot, or what impacted me, I don't know a lot or less because it's been also many years, was this bit where it was a thing, that unsaid thing, that you're really not normal and we don't expect normal things like marriage to happen to you. And which also came to, which got centered, Tony, when I finally was going to get married, with the kind of reactions that I got, right? It became very obvious to me that people had actually written me off saying she can be successful, she can be whoever, but she can't be a wife. And so I think that as a thought hurts more than you feeling left out. Yes, being left out is a real thing. Not finding a partner is a real thing. But like you, for me, it was very clear that I'll find a partner of my choice, or I will be single.
Absolutely.
Because I always, worked towards financial independence. I worked towards other independence. I worked at some point, COVID hit, but I'd also spoken about moving out and having my own place, right, with my family. So I think for me, that wasn't scary. It wasn't like it was scary means it wasn't like impossible that if I don't have a partner, I can't be independent. That wasn't ever the case. So just turning towards, now that we've reached marriage and partnership, Tony, do you want to quickly tell us any anecdotes around the dating apps that you used, or any kind of reactions from folks that you got, to just make the people here feel better about their dating experiences?
No, I think so. I started using dating app in 2017. Tinder was the only one available, or at least a major one. These days, I'm told there are much more apps that have much more description about people and all that. So it was just Tinder. I signed up, and I matched with multiple people, and very interestingly, there are a lot of people, interesting people, but the responses were also very, very different. And that's something that I thought I should spend a minute on, is because there are some people who match just to know that whether I'm a real blind person on the other side. They will ask me, "Oh, are you a blind person in real?" And I'm like, "Yes." "How do you use mobile phones?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's screen readers," and unmatched, right? But then there are also people who talk to you. Yeah, you get all sort of
just Google how blind people use phones, you guys.
That's true, but you know what, the world is a brutal place, and
it's a curious place. Let's call it
it's
that.
a very curious place, truly. And then you also find people who want to be friends with you. Then you also find people who flirt with you, but not date sense. Then there are people who date, and there was also someone who ended up marrying me. So there is a whole range of sort of experiences you find. Every experience are not good, because some people again will ask you questions that are not welcoming, that are offensive in some sense. Although it's difficult to offend me, but there are some people who still manage to ask me offensive questions. So my thing is that if you're on dating app, and I think my philosophy is pretty simple, Nidhi. If you go to universities where everyone is going, if you go to workplaces where everyone is working, then go to place for dating also where everyone is going to date. And these days dating apps are is a major thing. I'm not saying it's mandatory for you to go, but it's definitely a choice. It's definitely a choice out there for you. And one thing about dating apps I think I should say is that many times in the physical world, in the offline world, it was difficult for me to assert the fact that I'm a potential partner for people. And the dating app, people could not ignore that, because I said I'm here to date. I'm here to date. That's it. So the idea that I'm a potential partner could not be ignored by people. And that gave me the opportunity to date. And I think that dating apps give you that kind of a freedom, that kind of a space to assert yourself, to kind of express that you are looking for partners or partner. So that's why I think dating app is a cool idea, not mandatory, of course. But here is That's where most people these days are finding their partners. Why shouldn't us? Because we can't see. Yes, some of the apps are not accessible. Some of the folks here are working with some of the dating apps, I'm told. But you might have to take help from some sighted friends to set up the profile. But after that, I'm told that most dating apps are accessible to use, not to set up the profile. But I think that's a great avenue for us who are ignored in the dating world, otherwise in the physical spaces, to go and find our space. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Tony, I have many stories about the dating app, but maybe I'll talk to people.
Yeah,
after this panel, I can continue and I can go on. But I think
totally you should do this. Yeah.
No, I should actually circle back to talking about rejection and dating app or otherwise. And I think rejection is important, like getting rejected and rejecting others. I think.
No, Nidhi, a small bit on that, and is that one thing I realized. So at some point, I used to say that my story, the story of my life, should be titled a saga of rejection, something like that, rejection ki kahani or something. But one thing I realized is that all rejections are not on account of disability. So I realized that we tell the world that don't focus only on our disability. Please look at us as individuals, so on and so forth. And when rejections happen to us, we tend to think that it's all about disability. And I realized that people can reject you for various reasons. At times they are not in a space to date. At times, they have decided that they don't want to marry, for whatever reasons. And at times they don't find you interesting, but not on account of your disability or for something. And it's important as persons with disability in the community, it's important for us to realize that these two can happen. Everything about us is not about disability always. So
I think it's really important.
And that helps me to take these rejections with positively, to be friends with women who rejected me. It's fine. I can be still friends with them. It's okay. Dating.
You could also have just been too cool for them, Tony. So people also reject you because they're like, hey, you're too cool for me. Can't handle you. Go away.
Totally. I doubt it, but maybe they did.
I used to put all my rejections that way.
That's a great way. No, but the underscoring point here is that all rejections are not about disability. There are some people who might have rejected us on account of our disability, but then they don't deserve us anyway. So forget them. Otherwise,
even if they do, even if we love them really much, it's fine. It's okay. They don't want to. It's like, hey, I would really love you if you were 30 kgs lesser or 20 kgs more, or were not born in South India, or like ridiculous things like that, right? Or if you were non-disabled, but I wouldn't be me if I was non-disabled, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who that person would be. So you're actually not in love with me, you're in love with some fictitious person. So your condition of I would accept you if you were non-disabled is also I'm trying to not use words that we'll have to beep out. So anyway, I think it's but for us and our own mental health and our own negotiation or navigation of relationships, it's important to understand that all rejections, you could just not be interesting or appealing to them. Let's even face that. And I think it's also okay to reject someone, right? There's a lot of pressure. I had to say no to this guy who was non-disabled, and I had a lot of pressure, including from inside me, right? Saying, oh my God, will I find another non-disabled person ever? And then I was like, well, why do I want to find a like, is that who I want to find? This person does not appeal to me, right? Like, I know that I'd be miserable. Like, why would I say yes? So I was friends with him, but I never ended up saying yes, despite of multiple pressures, right?
Absolutely. And that's just to circle back with those two things we said: emotional, being able to physically do things independently and being emotionally confident about our own disability.
Correct.
That's the strength. That's what the strength we get to reject people whom we don't think we are not compatible with.
No, and my two questions, to reject also were, Tony, okay, one is attraction, right? So I was like, does this behavior turn me on? Whatever X, Y, Z about this person. And the second was, will I ever be able to respect them like my partner? Forget accepting, right? Even we can have issues of accepting others. And this is a non-disabled. Mostly if I give this example, they're like, this person must be disabled. You must be not wanting a disabled. No, I'm talking about a non-disabled person, right?
Yeah.
But it is not like then there would be no rejection because the half of the other world is non-disabled.
Yeah.
There would
Yeah.
be no everybody, whoever liked anyone first, they just feel together. So
Yeah.
it's really not that, right? So I think it was important for us to bring this, and we'll close with a question about your marriage, if you don't mind, Tony. Just to, and I'm again going to club 2-3 questions, and we have 2 minutes. We should just wrap up after that.
Sure.
You've told us how did you meet, but I definitely want to understand, because I think it's also a misunderstanding that this whole idea of settling, right? That once you're married, everything is hunky-dory. There are differences. There are differences in who we are as people, but there are differences in disabilities. There are differences. We need to set boundaries even within relationships, not just consent boundaries, but like space boundaries, etc. So what have been some of the issues, not just because you are blind and your partner is sighted, but also because of who you are, maybe the 2 different people that you are, right? So, yeah.
Right. So again, as Nidhi said, my partner is sighted, my wife is sighted. We use the word partner. So I've got married in 2020 July. It's been like 2.5 years. So the thing is that I have been fortunate in some sense, because my partner's family, been associated with an organization for visually impaired here in Pune for 25 years or so. So the family, not just my partner, but the family also had a lot of idea about and right ideas about blind individuals, because they had this exposure. So the kind of reduce the pressure on me. But still there are 2 things I wanted to just in a moment what I can highlight. 2 things. One is that you still learn a lot of things about that person, not only from the perspective of disability. I mean, yes, things that you learn about that person because they are sighted and I'm not, but also otherwise, right? So a lot of things had to be told to my partner because I'm blind. I also had to assert my blindness in some sense, in the sense that I had to tell that certain things have to be kept in certain places, because otherwise I get confused. But I also learned a lot about my partner after we married as well. So for example, one thing was the idea of space, and I was like, initially I did not know this. Was like, what is this idea, man? Space, and we are married. What is, now you're saying you need space? Yeah, but I realized that you need your space in relationships, and I think that's also something related to consent, not entirely, but still related to consent. That I realized that, yeah, my partner do need space away from me. At times, they just want to watch a movie alone. That's fine. At times, they want to do things by themselves, certain things, whatever. And I realized that, yeah, and I don't have to share all my thoughts with my partner. It's not like, we hide things, but some of the emotions are, just for you. It's fine. You process it, and, you come, you do that. And my partner also requires that. And with the settling thing again, one is still trying to find and understand, how to take life ahead. But one thing that underscores all of this, Nidhi, and that's what I would like to sort of end. And perhaps I can ask you this question while I end also, is the fact that, I'm very sure every day, every moment in our relationship, I am trying to make sure that this doesn't turn into a caregiver, care receiver relationship. And that's a part of my thing, because I've done everything in my life to become independent, right? This is my on which, I led my life. And I cannot now say that because I happen to marry someone without disability, I can give away my independence. And I also try and, do my best to do things that I can do easy. Like, for example, we realized that it is easy for a blind person to clean ceiling fans, because for sighted, you have to look at the fan, and at times people get, exactly. So for us, it doesn't matter to me, because I don't look at the fan. So I'm cool with that. I can listen to a podcast and clean the fan. She can't do that. So I said, I will clean the ceiling fan. So thereby asserting yourself as an independent, equally contributing person, and remains the heart of our relationship. That is what I say, that makes us, And Nidhi, my question is that, so you have a different story to say, you have a different kind of marriage, every marriage is different, but also from the perspective of disability. Would you like to end this chat by briefly looking at how you, as a person with disability, found a partner, but also, your partner also has some kind of disability,
Right.
And how did you negotiate that in the relationship?
Right. It's very interesting, Tony, because so I live with blindness, my partner is low vision, and that's not why I married him. For all the jokes who are like, people are like, "Tera to acha hai, tujhe to low vision, highly functional." I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly why I married him." But after like 10 years of knowing him, no, that's not really, So, but really coming to 2-3 things, right? What does this negotiation mean? It's like it's marriage. I like to keep the bath towel a certain way and he likes to keep it a certain way. I can't believe that we'd had arguments over it, right? But living together is not a piece of cake for anybody, right?
Yeah.
When you live together with people, be it your flatmates, your roommates, your husband, your parents, whoever, you are constantly negotiating. You are being thoughtful. All sides are adjusting, and that's when you can live, in harmony with each other.
True.
Right. So I think that one to say that I'm married now, I'm happy now, everything will work for me is also a very, very Bollywoodish thought, or a very, very fake thought, let me put it, or an unexposed thought. That's not how it works, right? So after marriage, after being in a relationship, it's a constant negotiation, it's a constant learning. And I was smiling when you said space, Tony, because we just came back from a road trip and we spent 6 hours flat in a car where I was finishing a season of one of the series that I like on Netflix, and he was reading one of the policy books for recreation, right? And we were sitting next to each other, right? And it was our holiday. We were coming back, but that's how we wanted to spend it. And we've come to this, right? Where, yes, this is how we can find space with each other, away from each other. And so it's a constant learning, unlearning piece. But I also think what you said is very important, and particularly if you've been fiercely independent, right? And let me tell you, in my initial dating days, or I think when Apoorv was just about to realize that he liked me, I can't remember in which phase, I remember he pulled out the chair in a restaurant for me. Now, Tony, that's like, how you impress a girl.
Yeah.
And we pulled out the chair. I turned around and I said, you know what? I don't need help with this. He was flabbergasted. He was like, sorry. I said, I don't need help with this. You guided me here. I can sit down by myself.
Yeah.
He quietly sat down and then he said, Nidhi, everything's not about helping you. And then something clicked in my brain. I was like, oh, I'm being rude. He's not. Until date, when we travel together, he gets the door for me in the car. And it took me a while to be okay with it. To be okay that my partner is getting the door, not because I'm blind, he's getting the door because I'm his wife and he likes doing that, right? Yeah. But if tomorrow he says, but I like taking care of you and I will do everything you sit, I will lash out, right? Because it cannot come at the cost of an independence. So I think it's a constant, even within relationships, and both partners have to work towards it, right? Taking care of a partner, making them feel special is really one thing, but being dependent and not pulling the weight that you can and are supposed to pull. I think that's really, really important for us to think about. If my partner is less disabled or non-disabled, it doesn't mean that they will then end up doing everything. Or if there's a medical emergency, they'll take care of it. Or if there's financial emergency, they'll take care. Or if there's electricity gone, they'll call. It's not like that. And I think that is the constant negotiation that we're looking at. And I think the question of consent, when you're approaching someone, when you're flirting, when you're dating, or when you're in a marriage, I think it continues to grow and evolve in different ways, respecting boundaries and asking for consent is always something that we should look for. Thank you so much, Tony. I think we're running absolutely out of time. Thank you for
Nidhi.
having this conversation.
Thank you, Nidhi, and thank you, Access India, for letting us do this free building chat. And Nidhi, I don't think I would have done this with anyone other than you. like this. And so I really appreciate for having me, and it was a lot of fun. And please continue at the offline thing. I hope you have questions, guys. Ask a lot of questions to Nidhi, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's always a pleasure to have you at Rising Flame, as well as to chat with you in person and otherwise. So thank you, Tony, for this conversation, and thank you everyone for listening to us.
Thank you.
Background is text. Want more around disability and relationships? Get a collection of personal stories by disabled women on love and romance at bit.ly/Dil Vil Pyaar Vyaar. Follow Rising Flame on social media at Rising Flame Now. There are small icons of a message, notification, and typing text beside it. On the top left corner is the Rising Flame logo, and on the bottom right corner is an illustration of a short-haired person using a wheelchair while holding hands with a longer-haired person in a skirt. There are small pink hearts near the headline.